Staff, now that we have a fall fast bridge score and another score, whether it's the winter fast bridge or spring fast bridge, we can start to take a look at growth. Today, we're going to take a look at the group growth report. I'm going to explain what it is, what you can measure from it, and hopefully make it easier for you to determine which students are making good growth or high growth, and maybe which ones are maybe struggling a little bit. Remember, our goal at Centerville is that all students learn at a high level, and if they're not, how do we get them there? So we'll start out by clicking the reporting tab. Next, we're going to look for the group growth report. If you are in 2nd through 5th grade, you'll click A reading. And if you're in K1, you're going to choose early reading. Clearly, you could go do this with math. And if you want to go back and do the CBM, you could also. Since this is an older grade level, we're going to choose A reading. Next, we're going to go down to where it says select grade or class, and we want to select the radio button for grade wide since we're going to be exploring this as a PLC. And then depending if this was the winter or spring test, you'll click the appropriate radio button. We're going to leave it for winter for right now. Finally, we click generate report. Now, there's a couple buttons that we up here or drop downs that we have to adjust so that we can see the report appropriately. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to where it says end of year goal, and we're going to choose low risk. The reason we're doing that is that's when students are no longer at risk, and it's our goal for our building to move students to that low risk level. Next, we'll keep it at monthly. In terms of color coding, we want benchmarks. And then finally, we want growth by start score. The reason we're selecting this is if we click growth by start score, this is going to allow us to take a look at a specific student and what their start score was. This particular student had a 464. What this will do, it'll allow us to compare any student across the nation who started with a 464 with this student and see how our student did in terms of growth compared to the rest of the nation. The last thing we have to do is we have to go over to this plus sign to allow us to see more data. All right, we're going to start out by first of all taking a look at the benchmark categories for where our students are at. If you look right here down below, they have student score. It says high risk, some risk, low risk, and advanced. This particular column shows where our students started with their fast bridge score. This student started at a 464, this student started at a 501, this student started at a 423. This next column shows them where they're at during the winter. This whole column here is used to produce this bar graph up above. If you look at this is the fall test and this is our winter test. And if you hover over the bar, it tells us that 16 students started in the dark pink, which is high risk. And now in the winter, we have 9 students that are at that level. So 7 students have progressed out of the high risk category into one of these others. What does this next column mean? What this next column is showing is it's showing how much the student grew per month and what their growth is compared to those nationally. So when you look at this particular student who started at a 464 and he had a 475, this student grew 2.74 points per month. And when we look at that kid nationally, he's in the 35th percentile. So he's below average in terms of growth. What does the color mean? When it comes to growth, down here, there's another set of colors that coincide with the particular score. Dark pink means flat growth. Light pink means modest growth. Dark purple means typical growth. And light purple means aggressive growth. And I don't see any here right now with that particular category. So as we go down here, this particular student had a 501. They grew to a 507. They had a 1.66 points per growth per month, which put them at the 58th percentile. Now that you might say, well, that's kind of weird. This kid had 1.66 and they're getting typical growth. Well, this kid made 2.74 and they made modest growth. Remember, we're looking at specific start scores and where they landed. And so when it comes to specific start scores, that's why you might see greater growth maybe at a lower level than you did at a higher level. But when you compare nationally, how did they do? All right, the next column over talks about monthly goal. Remember, we want all our students to end the year at being at the low risk level, or dark purple, the low risk level. This student started at a some risk level, but we want him to get to the low risk level. To get to this low risk level, he has to get a 490, or he has to grow by 3.89 points per month in order to reach that score or make typical growth. Remember, this student right now is making modest growth, which if they continued that growth, they would be at a 486 and still be at a some risk level. So this tells us how many points they have to grow per month, or at what percentile nationally they have to grow in order to reach the goal of being low risk. You'll notice that all of these have low risk as their goal. Now we know that's a huge endeavor for a student who starts at a 423. Now, when we look at this kid who's at a 423, his score actually went down. And so it would make sense that his growth is flat and that the amount of points he got per month were negative because he went down. In order for this kid to actually make it to the low risk level, he would have to have a growth score of 20 points per month or be at the 99th percentile. I think the key, though, is his predicted score right now is going to be in that high risk area. And so we want to take a look, maybe why is this student having low growth? Now that we understand the group growth report, I think we need to do some celebrating and then take a look at how do we help some students who maybe aren't making the growth that we want. The first thing I want you to do here is I want you to go to where it says growth percentile and click it so that the purple ones are on top. You may have to click it once or twice. And we want to celebrate the students who are doing phenomenally. Look at the student. This student's making 99th percentile, 99th percentile, 99th percentile. That's aggressive growth. And as we work our way down, we'll work through the different growth levels. Clearly, as we get down further, maybe there's some opportunities for us to make some adjustments in our classroom. Maybe it's with small group instruction or something of that sort. What I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to click out of this tutorial and take a look at the directions that I printed off for you. And then the next steps I want you to do to kind of analyze your data. Remember, I know that everyone is working hard right now. What we want to do next is take a look at how are we working hard, and are there any changes we want to make to best support all our students to make good growth? Thank you.